something to see.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of Project Shadow. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Brian.
Someone forgot to come in at the time when they were supposed to. Dramatic pause. Brian's on the show. Yep, my hubby's here. I'm very excited because we used to do this show together a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And one day, we will again.
Yay!
He says with much fear and trepidation. I invited Brian on the show today because, well, see, we are an Apple family. If you haven't, caught on to, most of my references that I make in here, when I talk about Apple Music and whatnot, because, we are the house that Apple built. And as such, we watch everything through our Apple TV. And the other day, this magical thing happened. They did a sale on a show that we haven't seen for a very long time called Chuck. Seriously, I don't know if it's still going on, but if you missed it, start looking for these things regularly. It was $20 for the complete series. All of it.
Yeah.
All of it. Every episode.
$20 Chuck.
$20 Chuck.
I think that's another thing. But it was $20 for Chuck.
So we bought ourselves Chuck. And have been rewatching it. And it's glorious. I forgot how much I loved this show. I really forgot how much I loved this show. And with Zachary Levi starring in Shazam and me not trusting DC movies enough to go to the Pain Palace to watch it, even though it's gotten fairly good reviews, I just... There is much pain and suffering to go to the local theater because they hate the living.
No, they like the living, just the very tiny living. Like small children and tiny people.
That's true, because I know some people that don't have the leg problems that I do that have leg cramps from their chairs, because they're made for people that are under 5 feet tall.
Yeah.
And I am over 6 feet tall.
And very, very scrawny, which is sad because the body makeup for this area is a much larger build.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of tiny people.
So, in wanting to watch Shazam, but waiting for it to come out later, because I just don't trust DC. I've been burnt too many times. Just too many times. Went, maybe this one. Went to the theater and nope, not that one. I'm waiting. But I wanted to watch Zachary Levi do something because he's awesome. And then Chuck happened. It was really smart on their part to, put it out on sale like that right then, because people like me and you who are wanting to catch up with him. I love the show. We've watched most of season 1 and
I thought all of season 1.
Yeah, right. All of season 1 and parts of season 2.
Yeah.
And the first thing that I completely forgot, is that Matt Bomer is in the show. I don't know why I didn't remember that he played Bryce Larson.
Yeah.
But he does. He plays Bryce. And I didn't remember that. And it's probably because I really didn't become a big fan of his until White Collar. And then, I would sit with my Anne Rice tweets open and just watch Matt Bomer. And if you don't know about that, oh my goodness, go back in her timeline to when White Collar was airing and just read through the they're glorious. She is a Matt Bomer stan, full on. Maybe that's why I didn't remember it was him, but yeah, that kind of blew my mind. I had also forgotten how many excuses they had, especially in season 1, not so much in season 2, but especially in season 1, to have the females be in as little clothing as possible. That was a real thing in season 1 that they finally cut back in season 2, which I'm happy about. And not just because I'm the gay. And, I'm also the trans, and I get a little jealous of the ladies' bodies.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it was actually during that period of sexier television when a lot of. Okay, I'll drop that part because that's accusatory. A lot of execs were, in this whole like, ooh, we need sexier television, so they had sexier Star Trek, which is
No, that was
Voyager,
actually how
and
they promoted it.
That's how they promoted it. Yeah,
It's Star Trek, but sexy.
sexier. And they did
No, but sexy.
Oh, but sexy.
Not but sexy. No.
No, but sexy. There was
We're not
quite a
gonna have
sexy
a
butts on the show.
There were. And a lot of people in decontamination chambers rubbing
Yes.
all kinds of...
Oh, I said boy. That's right. That was Enterprise.
Enterprise, yeah.
Yeah, my bad.
Enterprise, the show that you watch because Phlox is the greatest character that has ever been introduced in a Star Trek series ever. I will fight you on that.
Yeah.
Everything else... Season 4 is great.
Yeah.
Everything else...
You just gotta remember, everything else is Star Trek, but sexy.
But sexy. It's been a weird show to kind of get back into for a lot of reasons. One, the HD up convert is a little weird at times. And I think it's because the way that they filmed the show maybe wasn't as conducive to the method that they used for upscaling. Like, a lot of it works fine.
Yeah.
But every now and then...
Every once in a while you get this, like... And for me, it was almost like a nostalgic moment because, like, the door behind him very pixelated. And I felt like I was watching this on older cable. I was going to say cable, but I guess I'd have to qualify that as older cable now because, non-digital cable. the analog cable days.
Analog.
Yeah. And it was just like, I had that moment where I was like, oh yeah, I'm glad the whole show wasn't fuzzy like that, but...
I remember when we first got cable installed at our house and we had a whole 13 channels and didn't know what to do with them.
Yeah, and I don't mean that pixelated. The early cable days where, it was so pixelated there was like still static lines and stuff that ran up the screen.
And that's not a joke, by the way.
That's not a joke. It was, yeah.
The static lines or I remember when we got cable for the whole 13 channels thing.
Yeah.
That was a thing.
There was a day. And the crazy thing is the static lines and stuff was an improvement from the antenna.
Oh, so much.
Yeah.
So much so.
Antenna was like almost like trying to watch scrambled television, but it was only like half scrambled.
Yeah, my family didn't spring for cable in my room, so I had to deal with with whatever UHF channels I could get.
Yeah.
And that actually does bring back a lot of nostalgia, some of the weird blurriness that comes in parts. Do you hear my crystal doggy going click, click, click through the house? I think it's just become a feature of the podcast. It's like the wind chimes that blow through periodically. I think the one that suffers the most from the Plastic Fantastic is oddly enough not Captain Awesome, but Morgan, because they sharpened the detail on his beard within an inch of its life, but his skin is awfully very soft and fuzzy, like not out of focus, but not as high def as the beard and the surrounding hair. And he almost, especially on some of the earlier episodes where you felt like they were testing the software and then went, it's good enough. And because it gets better over time. But in the first couple episodes, it almost looked like they had an actor on set because the actor who played him couldn't show up, and so they just CG'd his eyes and nose.
Like a beard double?
Yeah, they had a beard double, and they just like superimposed Morgan's eyes and nose in the hole because it looked weird. I'm just, and I don't know, maybe I just got used to it, or it did get better. It feels to me like it got better over time, but HDF converts are a weird thing. And that could be an entire episode in and of itself. But, yes.
So one of the earlier questions that we had was, what happened to McG? I know we had some bets on that and theories of our own. Like, I figured, he lost
What happened to McG?
one too many bets. I didn't know if you actually looked up a final answer.
Please hold while I pause the podcast recording to look up the answer of what happened to McG. I have an answer, but before I give it, Brian would like to give his theory.
Yeah, because we were just sitting there debating, like, wondering what happened to him. Because Chuck was awesome, and he did other things after that. And I know that he and Michael Bay were having their little back and forth, and I figured maybe he had one too many bets that he lost to Michael Bay, and the last one was like, you have to go away.
If you're not old enough to remember that, they literally, I can't remember if it was McG or Bay who actually challenged the other one to a literal male body part measuring contest.
Yeah.
Like literal. They wanted. One of them actually challenged the other to a pay-per-view event to be recorded in Las Vegas, where they would measure their manliness as it became turgid and annoying, and see who actually had a bigger one. And the other one refused to show up, but I can't remember which one actually made the challenge.
Yeah, like there was a whole thing between the two of them, and I figured maybe there was one of the bets in there, like was you're gonna have to just go quiet and go away, and he lost and had to go quiet and go away because it was like he kind of vanished, or at least off my radar.
I think the answer is he just went quiet because I'm looking at his thing, and he's been consistently working since Chuck went away. Chuck went away in 2012. Oh, we miss you, Chuck. But yeah, apparently he did a series called Aim High. He did a series called Nikita. He's got some movies in here. He did a series called Kevin from Work. I never even heard of that one. I've heard of The Mysteries of Laura, but I never watched it. That was apparently McG. So was the Lethal Weapon TV series. I knew he was part of the Supernatural thing. I didn't know he was still listed as executive producer. And apparently in 2013, he continued doing that. So, yeah, still doing Supernatural and Shadowhunters.
Ah.
I did not know Shadowhunters was a McG show. And I probably should have, because there's a lot of scantily clad people in that. But it's people this time, not just women.
Yeah. Yep.
He got woke. We like seeing half-naked men's, too. Hi, Magnus. How you doing? Anywho, I shouldn't have said that. So, yeah. The cringiest thing. Actually, I'll save that for after the break. But there's one thing that was just, like, so cringy that I forgot had happened. But we'll talk about that in a minute. I still love the characters. Big Mike is like hashtag life goals for me. Like, I want to be Big Mike when I grow up. I just want to have an office where I get a paycheck and I get to sit in there with my Marlin and my Danish, and stuff happens around me and I don't have to cope with any of it. Like, that's my dream life. I want to be Big Mike. I need to be Big Mike. Like, it's not even like a little bit. Like, I've been having dreams lately of just sitting in an office with a Marlin and Danish and just being happy. Like, I think I could actually achieve full on enlightenment in that state, because Danish is already close to like perfection.
True that.
And Marlins are just funny to look at. So I don't know. I definitely want to be Big Mike. The other thing that really kind of got me watching this is how much Adam Baldwin really was the character that he played in there, except for probably without the crazy combat skills. The other crazy, he kind of seems to have actually had.
Yeah.
That was weird, because as time went on, and it's also kind of a weird show to watch, because we checked out of Handmaid's Tale after season 1 because it just felt too real. Like, it hurt my soul to watch the show, because I just felt like, still kind of feel like we're heading there. But to see Sarah, I should get the actual actress's name, on this show in kind of there and thinking of her on Handmaid's Tale, because she plays the wife of the main dude, at least in season 1. No spoilers, please don't spoil me on following seasons, because I've read the book, but I have no idea if they're doing anything at all anywhere in there. Oh, of course, you have a name that I'm not going to be able to pronounce. Yvonne Stravosky. I apologize, Yvonne. I'm sorry. I love you. You're a great actress. But it I don't know. There's something just almost creepy because I knew her from Chuck. And when you get those like flashbacks of her on Handmaid's Tale, and you see that she was this like committed, independent woman, it's like making this weird, unfortunate, like fanfic I will never write, that like she and Casey ended up together, and that's how the Handmaid's Tale started.
That would be terrifying.
But
and how the Handmaid's Tale would start.
If you think about how the story goes between her and her husband in the Handmaid's Tale, like basically she and Casey ended up together, and that's why we need Chuck.
Yeah.
See, these are the weird things that happen when you don't watch a show and then go back to it. So, okay, I said after the break, we talk about the cringe. We have to talk about the cringe. Lester and Jeff, with the camcorder,
oh yeah,
shooting down women's chesticles from the like delivery girls and stuff, and it's played off in the thing that everybody kind of knows they're there, and it ends up saving the day and being the thing that helps them actually win the case, is their quote-unquote pervert video, their perverted habits. That would never fly today. Like, that was one of the first things that, like, I was just sitting there watching that going, I remember them being, like, pervy, but they're not gonna... Oh, they are. They are. Like, that's so invasion of privacy. Like, And that just shows you how much culture has changed.
Yeah, even in just the last, 7 years?
Well, that would be, 14 years? From 2004? Is that, 2005?
Oh, yeah, I was saying 12.
Yeah, from 2005 to 2000... Because that would be season
years.
1.
Yeah, season 1 would be 2000.
Yeah, it just shows you how much things have changed, because I probably just laughed at that when I saw it on its original run and didn't have a moment of sheer and utter, like, complete cringe.
Yeah, it got even worse because my brain went into the whole thing, and then I went, oh my gosh, she did still give consent. It was part of a transactional exchange for putting the bugs in the place. And I went into this whole weird, like very strange, thing in my whole head. And I was like, wow, we've really, still had a whole moment of, like, cringing and stuff. But
yeah,
it was
because
like,
they do make it clear that she knew that they were doing it.
She was distracting them with her cleavage, and
so that she could put the bugs in the place. So she could
put the bugs in the place because she was a fulcrum agent. And it was, they're very consistent about, an agent has a job and they use their assets to get the job done.
Yeah.
And in this case, she knew they were pervs and they would keep reordering.
Yeah.
And every time she came in, she added a bug. Because that's how he figured out the bugs, was the number of bugs, because she'd been there 29 times, there were 29 bugs. So it was, that's where I went, oh my gosh, it's a transactional exchange. I'm like, oh my, that's a lot of thought that just went into something that, like you said, back then I just laughed at and went on. I didn't even consider, like, was there consent? Was there not consent? How could you, trying to derive all these other questions and,
And I feel like this would be a show that would be so messy to try to do a feminist critique of, because just dealing with the characters that we have with the general and with Sarah, you have kind of one message and one take for them, because Sarah is a fully fleshed out character. While she is eye candy in a lot of the episodes, especially in season 1, she is very fleshed out and becomes even more so in future seasons as we start learning about her past, her family, and, how she got to be who and what. Even through the whole thing, she is a much more fleshed out character than either Captain Awesome or Casey.
Yeah.
So there's something very interesting to say about that. Though, the very obvious tropey will they, won't they thing that they're doing here, it just kind of, I don't know if this is true or not, because you know how people like to build their own legend, but the people behind How I Met Your Mother have often claimed that they made that show with DVD sales in mind. That they wrote the show so that every time you watched it, you'd catch a little something here, there, and yonder. And that could be them tooting their own French horn, or it could be something that they actually did. Considering the many layers, at least in the earlier seasons of the show, that may actually be accurate. But you can tell that this show started having an idea that that was something important. Because you can see them trying to layer those meanings in, because by this point, I think The Office had already been saved from cancellation, because most people forget that it was canceled after season 1.
Yeah.
And it was the sales of the DVD box set of season 1 that convinced the network to bring it back. And this is an era before streaming really became a thing, even though we watched it streamed. And I wish I could remember the name of the stupid app. All I remember is the icon was an owl. But
yeah.
It was one of the ones that did not survive. It was beat out by Hulu, and I can't remember the name of it. But we actually watched it on a streaming app way back when, because we decabled really early. But you can tell in season 1 that that was not a thought, that they were just making a weekly serialized television show that may eventually be syndicated. So it's not as serialized as a show. Like, it has a few of those serialized elements trying to come in with the, what are they going to do with the intersect, and, what's going to happen to Chuck when the new intersect gets turned on. And those elements are kind of serialized throughout season 1, but it's very much just a freak of the week type show where Chuck flashes on a thing, they deal with the caper, whatever it is, everything gets reset to where it was at the beginning of the episode by the end of the episode. So yeah, maybe Chuck and Sarah kiss, but by the end, one of them's having cold feet and they kind of walk it back. Like, it very much resets. And you can, it's something that was very common in, pre-streaming, especially pre-streaming, but even pre, DVD box set times. And you can watch that eroding in season 2, where they're starting to look at, we kind of want this to be rewatched and people to see this over and over and over again. And that's how we're going to make money on the back end. Because, like, some of the really funny cage fight scenes, the stuff that the actors are doing in the background just makes you want to rewind and go, okay, now what's this one doing? Okay, now what was that one doing? Because there's much more activity going on in the background, and you can almost see that there is another story playing out in the background with a lot of the bit characters that is never going to surface. It's just going to be that thing in the background, like the one dude who works at the Buy More who's a DJ, and like his kit keeps getting upgraded from time to time, and if you watch, you'll see him in the background over in the audio equipment section a lot, just like doing stuff. Like, you can see that those ideas are starting to come into the series, and that's interesting in that it almost feels like this show is like an early intermediate evolutionary stage between old school serialized television, well, not even serialized, but old school, just, episodic television, and what we'd eventually get was streaming.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed any of that. But...
Yeah, I have. Especially when we're a couple episodes into season 2 now, and yeah, they're going back because you can see where they went back. They reached back into season 1 and grabbed some of the minutia, and now have brought it forward with more information to go, hey, this little thing wasn't just a little thing; it's actually a clue, or here's a detail that means even more.
And you can see how that's working out because, the original model was to sell the DVD box set. And now, of course, it's all about the streaming rights. And it's kind of interesting to watch a show that, is in this kind of intermediary developmental stage between the two and how its content is changing over time because they want you to get the DVDs and watch it again. They want people to do what we did and go, "Oh, Chuck, I loved that show. Here's my $20."
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't know. I'm kind of fascinated by the history of media and how storytelling changes and evolves over time. And I almost feel like we could do a series on this podcast where we just went through and discussed how we can watch in that show and in several others that process starting to happen. Because Charmed is very interesting, but on the other, like on the backwards side of that, where it starts off extremely episodic, and then they realize the power of syndication and getting people to come back every day, so it becomes very hyper serialized.
Actually, I think the most distinct one I could think of would be Stargate.
Yeah.
Because the first several seasons is very episodic, and then you get the season 5 reboot, and then all of a sudden there's a whole more in-depth story that evolves, that runs over multi-season arcs and everything else, and that once again was coming out in that time period where there was that transition.
And it's that odd thing that doesn't happen anymore because those early seasons were on HBO, where HBO, we're not just television, we're HBO. They pride themselves on having those more detailed stories now, and they didn't in their original programming to go back. And, well, do we need to even talk about Sci-Fi Channel?
Yeah.
Because, they had a gold mine. Just a brilliant show in The Expanse, and just went, well, you're not going to watch it on appointment television like we tell you to, and just fine. And tossed it off so that it's now on Amazon Prime. It's Stargate's a very interesting backwards. That's really topsy-turvy world where HBO had it and didn't really go as in depth as you think that they should have, and then Sci-Fi did.
Yeah,
because that would never happen nowadays. Can you imagine the nightmare if Game of Thrones went over to Sci-Fi Channel? They'd be fighting Sharknadoes by season 5.
Yeah. Except it would be sharks. It would be White Walker Nados. It would spin up in the north. And
Zombie Nados.
Be full of, White Walkers.
Faces going, nah, 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 nah.
Oh, it'd be so bad. So bad.
So bad. Wow. Okay. So I wanted to actually go into several episodes, but yeah, that's not going to happen. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I really like having Brian on. I hope we can get him on more episodes in the future, especially the series that we're going to be doing on the magical pets. I think you'd have a lot of fun with that. Magical and sci-fi pets. I think that would be right up your alley. I think you'd have fun with that. So maybe I can talk you into coming on the show more.
Maybe.
Anywho, if you enjoyed this episode, and the app that you're listening to me on allows you to rate either this episode or the podcast in general, please do that. That tells the algorithm to share the podcast with more people. It really does help, especially in Apple Podcasts. It helps a lot over there. If you've got $1 that you can throw my way down in the show notes or over in the show notes, or if you click the little I, if you're listening in, it's in different places. Sorry, I wish it was simple. But in the show notes, you'll see a link that says community support. If you click that, it'll take you over to Anchor. You can join the project at the $1, $5, or $10 levels. And that kind of helps me do just about everything that I do. If you don't have the money or you don't feel like joining right now, that's fine. That's fine. Don't worry about it. I understand. Trust me. Trust me, I understand. But if you know anybody that you think might like this show, please share it with them. That helps out immensely. If you have any questions, comments, or topics you'd like to see discussed on the show, I'm on Twitter more than Brian wants me to be on Twitter. Oh, you can admit it. It's true.
I tweet.
No, you don't. Yeah, really don't.
I really don't. Oh, my.
I'm C. Dorset on Twitter. You can find me over there. Or you can go to Anchor.fm, download the Anchor app, and once you follow Project Shadow, you see a little button that says voice message. If you click that, please keep it clean so I can use it on the show. But I would love to get more of those so that we can make this our podcast. I apologize to, I think it was Jack. It was GAC, I believe. I think there were dots in there. Don't know how it said. Sorry. Who sent in a message with a couple webcomics that they would like me to review. I'm working on that. I don't have the free time that I want to read those, but I am definitely working on it, so that will happen. But I really want this to be our podcast, so please share your ideas and what you would like to see. Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, buy my book, Crucify My Love. It's out. It's wonderful. Just search it on Amazon or go to crucifymylove.com. Nope, sorry, that's wrong. maskofthegods.com. And you'll find everything there, including a podcast that has me reading the book. So if you don't get enough of my voice on this show, you can get more of it reading a creepy love story between two people that probably should have never met. Because that's what I do. Anywho, until next time.
With zombies and werewolves.
There are no werewolves in the book.
Okay, not werewolves.
I would like to say there are no zombies, but there are Walking Dead in the book. They're not zombies in a traditional manner. They're very non-sectarian zombies. They're just Walking Dead people. It's kind of like that Rob Zombie song, "Living Dead Girl." You know, there you go. And that's my cue. The dog has started playing. Until next time, be like the dog and have the fun. Bye.
Bye.